The fierce Goths appear on the pages of history as early as the 4th century AD. And they literally sweep away the Western Roman Empire. But who were these Goths, where did they come from and where did they disappear to? I'll tell you. So, the name Goths most likely comes from the ancient Germanic verb *goda-, which means to pour. In fact, quite a lot is known about the Goths. More than about other early barbarian peoples. For the Goths guessed to create their own unique written language. And very early they came into close contact with the enlightened Romans. But first things first, my friends. It is known for sure that the Goths are in no way connected with the subculture of painted lovers of cemetery walks. They are natives of Scandinavia. That is, the Viking uncles, related to modern Danes, Norwegians and especially Swedes. In Sweden, the Goths tribe was known at least before the Viking Age. The island of Gotland, the land of the Goths, and Gothenburg, the fortress of the Goths, still exist here. It is assumed that the Goths landed across the Baltic Sea on the territory of modern Poland around the 1st century AD. Perhaps the cold in their native north did not suit them. And then they slowly moved south towards the modern Black Sea region, Novorossiya and Crimea. The Goths themselves then divided into two tribes, the Ostrogoths Eastern and the Visigoths Western. It was here in the 200s AD that the Ostrogothic state arose under King Hermann Erich, whose center was presumably located on the territory of modern Kiev. Or maybe Kiev itself was founded by the Goths. Who can figure it out? By the way, the Goths populated Crimea so densely that they remained here, possibly until the Middle Ages. Many centuries later, this fact allowed one mustachioed Austrian artist to call the occupied Crimea the German land of Gotenland. And even to plan the resettlement of Tyrolean colonists here, fortunately, which never happened. Moreover, Hitler even called the local Crimean Tatars who collaborated with him the descendants of the Goths. By the way, the language of the Goths, like their closest disappeared relatives, the Vandals, is classified as a special Eastern group of Germanic languages. And yes, it is quite well known, from the same translation of the Bible into the Gothic language. The Goths, at the peak of their state power, controlled vast territories of Eastern Europe, modern Ukraine, southern Russia, all the way to the Volga. Among the peoples who could be subject to the Gothic kings, even the ancestors of the modern Mordvins are mentioned. And the Goths even raided the modern Caucasus and the shores of Asia Minor. However, the Gothic state did not last very long in the open winds of the steppes of the northern Black Sea region. And already at the end of the 4th century, it was swept away by even more dangerous barbarians, the Huns. Whom the Goths themselves, most likely, disturbed by organizing a campaign to the east, to the shores of the Caspian Sea, where the Huns were then nomadic. However, the foot barbarians Germans, as it turned out, could not oppose the numerous horse archers in battle. In response, the Goths rushed in a friendly crowd into the borders of the Roman Empire, finally shaking its already frail framework. And if the eastern half with its center in Constantinople still stood, then the western one collapsed completely. Incidentally, at that time the Goths were not such wild barbarians. Because they professed Christianity, albeit in its Aryan sense, considering Christ a living person of flesh and blood. In 410 AD, the Visigoths under the leadership of their king Alaric did what no one in history had ever managed to do before, not even Hannibal and Spartacus. Namely, they took and plundered Rome without much difficulty. In 476, the Gothic king of Italy Odoacer buried imperial Rome forever, depriving the last Western Roman emperor Romulus of his title and sending his crown to Constantinople. The Goths founded their barbarian kingdoms in modern Italy and Spain. However, they were unable to survive as a single people. They were partly assimilated by the local, much more numerous Romanes, giving rise to the Italians, Portuguese, and Spaniards. They were partly destroyed by the Byzantines and Arabs, who in the following centuries constantly fought for power in Spain and Italy. The only reminders of the former power of the Goths today are Germanic words and names in the languages of southern Romance Europe, Alberto, Adolfo, and Alfredo, with Geraldo, for example. Subscribe to the channel, so as not to miss new videos.